you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's start this conversation. Let's start this conversation. We got no relation. It's crazy. You know
And we are live.
Nice.
Let's go.
Amazing.
Let's see how long we will have Janne with us today until he's going to freeze out and leave us.
Yeah,
I have a feeling it's not gonna be very pleasant today, but let's see.
I'm gonna just to give a quick roundabout. Janne's internet is really shit no matter what operator or provider he uses. But about this, so we're talking about fiber connection. So I don't know if it's true. I actually think it is. But when I was living in Spain before I moved to Malta, I heard funny shit that happened in Malaga. So they installed fiber connections in Malaga. They opened up all the streets, pulled the wires underneath the ground, and happy days. Put the asphalt back on, and then turn on the internet. Well, they turn on the internet and nothing happens. No connection. And they were wondering what the fuck is happening, and they just couldn't get it to work. So the story goes that they called in some Finnish fiber technician experts to kind of check on their um, fiber and why is it not working. And then the first thing when they got the maps for the wires that go underground or whatnot, and they started looking at them and realized that there might be a small little flaw in it. And then they asked, like, are these cables on an actual 90 degree angle on the turns? Turns out they were. So every single piece of fiber that they have has been cut because they did 90-degree angles instead of circulating ones. So they had to open up the streets all over again and remake the fucking infrastructure for the entire city.
Well, welcome to South Europe.
yeah,
Happens, you know.
yeah, it happens. It's not always easy with the fiber. And when I was working at IT in Finland, we had one new structure. There was supposed to be two fiber connection. So because it was like public building that has to have internet all the time. So they had two different fibers, and they built the structure, and then they were uh, starting to connect the fiber to building, and then okay, where the fuck is the another fiber? And they didn't they found, like spend a week digging in the ground to find the end of the fiber, and it was like so they like do the correct fiber cable there, and everything works, but they somehow managed to bury it under the ground, the end of the cable, so they had to bury it out there. So they spent like 1 week to bury, like digging in the ground to finding where the end of the cable is. So I don't know how that happened.
Well,
So they basically, they buried the fucking cable
Yeah.
under the ground, and then they spent a week looking for it.
Yeah. Yep, things happen.
I don't even know what to say, man.
Yeah, me neither. But it's Helsinki, so
Yeah. Going from fibers to actually playing the games with the internet. We're going to look at Counter-Strike as normally in the first half an hour or so, and we have actually a pretty good amount of CSGO lined up here. We're starting with ESL Pro League. Yesterday we had. Yeah.
we had a lot of different opinions yesterday, so now it's time to see who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah. So we started yesterday with 2 games on EPL EU. First series was between Mousesports and Tai Lu, and it was respectively 2-0 for Mousesports, 16-7, 16-13. Yeah, I don't know. Quite. It went as I told you it's going to go.
Well, I think we all obviously agreed that Mousesports should 2-0 this.
Yeah.
I was giving Tyloo some kind of hope. And well, to be fair, Train was pretty close. And it's kind of surprising because Mouse Sports used to be one of the better trained teams in the world, I dare to say, and lately they're not looking too hot there. So Tyloo was pretty close to upsetting them as well. They had a pretty good chance, but I think that's the story for Tyloo. A lot of times, they get fairly close, but they still don't manage to win maps, or at least series is really hard for them. So, uh, still, I think a pretty decent sign for Tyloo. Bad, but most
Thanks, C3PO.
speaking.
Yeah, that was something else.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, this is new one.
We can hear you, but
Dear fucking god, man.
no, but it's actually quite entertaining
What?
because it's quite entertaining because your face cam froze in like a smirk position, and then you're talking like C3PO.
Yeah.
So it was like a pretty. I know it's annoying.
Well,
but
this
it's
is actually
funny.
getting worse and worse.
Yeah, this is new problem. This hasn't happened before, I think.
No, this is I don't know. It can generally be the fact that people are at their homes streaming
Yeah.
fucking high quality Netflix and everything. So
Yeah, I think so.
I would imagine that's it. And then Janne just happens to live in an apartment building where there's too many people watching Netflix at the same time. I mean, that's legit something that it could be because we've been playing video games before and it's been working. And now you're literally just in a Discord
Well-
call and you have a browser open.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I should put up a sign that people have to unsubscribe from Netflix in the house,
Yeah.
But that's
So I will
something
drop
that
their breath.
yeah, but that's something what happens if you have a cheap router and it's not set up correctly because if you do it correctly, you shouldn't be affected about another people's Netflix habits because the router should route the internet like similarly to everyone, and nobody can like take all the connection for themselves. But if you use cheap router or you don't know how to correctly do the setup, it can be so that somebody can take the internet from everyone.
Well, I seem to be okay for now, so maybe we
Yeah.
can move on.
Yes, let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go.
We'll see how.
So yeah, G2 and Virtus Pro was the second game, and the Frenchman 2-0'd VP 16-6, 16-8. Pretty dire scoreline for VP, even though G2 is really good, but yeah, VP might end up, or it seems like VP are going to be the bottom feeders with Tyloo, and VP has no chance to get to playoffs. They lost all their three series, the three that they've played so far.
Yep, definitely quite expected. I think the interesting thing to take away here is that I do believe that Virtus Pro looked kind of okay on their T sides, but their CT sides, for whatever reason, were atrocious. On Dust 2 side, it was, I don't know, it looked like nothing. It was super easy for G2 to play, and I really, like I highlighted last time we talked about this match, G2 had lost 5 times on Dust 2 before this game. And I don't think this was a sign of them being actually good on Dust 2 now or them figuring out their issues. I think it was more Virtus Pro, their T side had nothing to offer because the first half was pretty close. So I don't know. Virtus Pro, this was not good at all. It can't be good when you lose 16-6, 16-8, but how should I put it? I still think they had their chance. It was just strategical, really bad on the team.
Yeah. I don't know. You were kind of expecting the Vertigo, which would have been the decider in this game. I was
Yeah.
kind of expecting VP to pick it, like you said actually yesterday too. But they didn't. So
Yeah, I'm surprised they did.
because they could, like with the Vertigo, they could have possibly forced the decider and could have taken a map, but that obviously didn't happen. Now, moving on to the EPL EU game of the day. We have Virtus Pro going against OG in 2 hours, 2.5 hours ish. Odds wise, VP 2.8 to over 3 times the money, OG 1.3 to 1.4. Yeah, hard to see if there's actually a chance for VP to even take a map here, even with the Vertigo.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, looks pretty tough. OG seems to be in great form and playing really well, so it's really tough to see Virtus Pro having a chance, at least at the series. Honestly, I don't know how OG are on Vertigo. That might be Virtus Pro's only chance, so I mean, it should be a 2-0 from my point of view. Actually, I think the odds for OG winning are quite good, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. That actually there is quite a good. If you bet 1.4 odds in games that is this far away from tight, so it's actually pretty good odds. And it seems that OG has not played Vertigo last three
Well,
in
they
last
will
3
probably
months.
ban.
So
Yeah, I would assume OG will ban
yeah,
Vertigo.
I would have to
Anything
say
else
so.
would be crazy, actually.
Yeah. It's
Actually, you can get...
the only map they haven't played in the last 3 months.
Yeah. To keep up the pace here, I'm gonna move on to EPL NA now. Yesterday we had 2 matchups. They started at the same time. No, wait, what? Let me see if I have everything correctly here. Results.
Yeah, I think I have one wrong link here.
Yeah, so it was
That's,
EG versus Furia was yesterday's game.
yeah.
And EG won 2-1 over Furia. 16 Furia won the first map 16-8. Then on train we had 16-14 for EG, and then 16-13 for EG Nuke. So it was a really tight series. EG really needed that win. If Furia won that, they would have clinched playoffs. So the situation is actually now very interesting because 4 teams are tied at 6 points. 2 teams have played 3 games and 2 have played 4 games. Liquid and 100 Thieves are both 4 games in with 2 victories, and Fury and EG are at 6 points with 3 games and 2 victories. So Liquid and 100 Thieves has to win their 2 next games, their last game, to be able to get to playoffs. And Liquid is playing against EG and 100 Thieves are playing against Furia. So very, very interesting matchup in general. But talking about the EG Furia, anything
about
interesting here?
About the table, there is a possibility that after today, every team is at 4 match and 6 points.
Yeah, that's actually true. Oh my god, the last I can't speak English. The last round will be very, very, very interesting if and when that happens. If that happens.
Yeah.
Then, looking at today's games in EPL North America at 6 p.m. GMT +1, we have Furia going against Swole Patrol. The Brazilians are going in as quite a heavy favorite, 1.3 to 1.4, and you can get over 3 times the money with Swole Patrol.
Yeah, I think Soul Patrol has a pretty good chance here. I mean, I'm rating Furia pretty high. I was already before the game yesterday, and they still played well against EG, but Swole Patrol seriously has played well too. I think even though they lost to EG, they looked good in that game as well. They easily could have, gone all the way. This is quite close. The odds seem quite okay, I suppose. Maybe there's some value on Small Patrol, especially on some maps. They might have a pretty good chance. So I wouldn't call this one an easy Furia win or anything, at least.
No, it does seem like Furia is favored a bit too much, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I think Furia should be a favorite, but I don't think that
Or
Small Patrol
are we
is
just-
that bad.
I think, like, if I didn't see any odds beforehand, I think I would put Small Patrol at maybe 2.7, 2.8. And I think if it goes all the way up to 350 somewhere, that is too much. I mean, around 3 is reasonable, but 350 is too much for me. I think that's a pretty good bet. I wouldn't say Fury or stable enough to be this big of a favorite, at least.
Yep.
Yeah. Moving on to the second series of today. We have Evil Geniuses going against Made in Brazil. Respectively, the odds are really similar than in the Furious Wall Patrol game. So this is EG is 1.2, 1.3. You can get 1.49 at Pinnacle at the moment, and MIBR is over 3 times, up to 3.5 times the money. Well, I guess these odds are a bit more on point than the Furia ones, you could say.
I'm not exactly sure. I know that Pinnacle odds on HLTV are outdated. I checked it up as well because I
Okay.
was surprised. Over the 1.49, it's down to like 1. I have it here actually 1.35. But anyway, I think I think it's fair that the odds are the same here as in the other matchup. Actually, I think MIBR played fairly well against 100 Thieves, even though 100 Thieves might have been not on their best. But MIBR, again, I've been on MIBR a lot here, and I think they are super up and down. They have good days, they have bad days. They can be atrocious, they can be pretty good. And Evil Geniuses, I still don't trust them to be stable enough either. Definitely favor EG here, of course, but definitely, I think the odds are pretty on point, actually. Yeah, you might be right. Since Small Patrol odds are better than MIBR, like your 3.5 on Small Patrol might be a good bet. On MIBR, I'm not too sure. I'm still expecting a pretty close game here. Maybe I like MIBR too much lately, but still.
Yeah, maybe this is playable odds because both of the teams has been inconsistent, so there is a possibility for upset, and if you get 3.4, 3.5 even for upset team, it's pretty good odds because both of the teams are inconsistent.
Yeah, and I think looking at MIBR, like the loss against Furia really has stuck to my mind. But looking at their other results, and especially, well, the loss against Liquid was pretty horrible too. But besides that, they did beat Orglas 2-0, they beat 100 Thieves 2-0, and I think yesterday they won against Gen G in Flashpoint 2-1. I mean, it's pretty solid, and yeah, definitely, I think I have to agree. 3.5 on MIBR actually is pretty good. I don't trust the Evil Geniuses to be this big of a favorite.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and from EPL we travel to Rush Frag Repeat, aka Flashpoint Season 1. Yesterday we had 2 series, and today we have 2 more. And we started the day with Dignitas going against Hopeless, and Dignitas wins 2-1, 6, but Hopeless actually took the first map, 16-10, then 16-11 and 19-15 for Dignitas. So we even saw a overtime here. Mika, please work your magic.
I really can't. I only have negative names for Orcless, and they actually played good, so I can't use any of my like nicknames for them.
Insults.
No, I want to call it nicknames or petting names. I actually liked how they played yesterday. I can't say anything bad for them.
I mean, yeah, taking Nuke 16-10 was actually quite promising. Then in Inferno,
And
Dignitas
and
played
and,
back really
yeah,
well.
and the nuke was Dignitas pick.
Yeah. So-
Yeah, this I need to add this in here. So this is pretty interesting because these teams this is the third best of three they played against each other in pretty much 2 weeks. So they have played each other a lot, and Nuke has been picked every time. The interesting part is that Dignitas won Nuke both the first and second time, and then they lose this time around. So it looked really bad for Dignitas, honestly, and then Inferno is interesting because they played it last time and Orgles won 16-3. But Dignitas came back and won it this time, which is pretty crazy in itself. But this is how CSGO works a lot of the time. And pretty impressed by Dignitas to win this series. I think it's worth mentioning that both Forest and Getright had pretty sick performances, especially on Inferno. It was kind of like going back, 6 years or something, where Forest and Getright were hard carrying the team on Inferno. Then also on Train, the decider, Getright was once again the person who basically carried the team, which is pretty cool because I think if there is one player in this team that people have counted out, it is Getright. But it really seems like, he wants to show that he is, still a good player, and at least in
Hey.
this series he did.
Hey, and also Ladislav Kovac, Guardian +5, over
Yeah.
1.1180 rating. Absolutely fantastic.
Well,
You've been bashing the guy a lot, so he played well yesterday.
Well, sure. I mean, he definitely played better than he's been in the past, but again, this is still playing against, I would say, tier 3 opposition,
But
good
at the
that he
end of it,
performs
like,
better.
yeah, if that's his current form, then he is current. He's playing with Dignitas. He's not playing with FaZe Clan. So also you have to drop your expectations to the level of the competition. And if we look at the level of competition now, Guardian pulled his weight yesterday. He was part of the
Well,
team
so
and he helped them win.
he
right?
showed some sign of life, yes, but he's
Yeah.
still dumb. So there's that, Look, the difference. Let me put this picture in your head. The difference here is very simple. People still count Guardian as potentially a very good, high-class player. People have already written off, for an example, Getright. Getright don't have those expectations anymore. Guardian kind of does, but he shouldn't have, because he will not reach that level again. He was the second best player in the world, maybe even the best player in the world at one point, and he will not get back to that level. I dare to say that. Getright, we already know, like he's been dropping off for years already. So this is good for Getright. It's a sign of life. Guardian, people have too high expectations on him nowadays, and okay, sure, he did better.
Well, but if you watch the teams he's been playing, you have to have the expectation for the guy. Like
Sure.
he has only played in the best teams in the world before
That's
Dignitas.
true, of course.
But one thing actually that I might be wrong here, but Guardian he was away for a few months at some point because of issues with his wrist, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, he's basically had issues with that for years already.
Yeah, because now that I'm thinking of it, because I do believe like your peak, like your skill level doesn't kind of disappear. But I'm wondering if his injuries with his wrist is the reason why he has kind of fell off.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think those kind of issues usually forces the player to play less. So I think he can't grind as he did in the past. So he only plays like team scrims and official games. So I think he cannot grind outside of those.
Well, so I don't know how true this is, but there was a major in 2015, I believe, that was his peak year. He was amazing that year. I would arguably say that he was better than Olof Meister, who everybody praises to the sky. And I'm Swedish, and I should, maybe back him up. But I really think Guardian might have been the best player that year. And then he got this injury, and it got pretty bad. So, assumably, he played with 4 times his normal sensitivity in that major, and he was still a god. That's crazy.
Oh
But
yeah,
I
I
think-
remember it was reported.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, this is the thing. I don't want to bash Guardian for dropping off, because this might be the issue. But the truth is, he will probably never reach that kind of peak again.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, definitely.
I
He
would 100% say he won't. And that's
He-
sad. I want to
He's
see a
not
good
getting
Guardian.
he's not getting any younger, and it's a fact that once you're over, I think it's 27 or 28, your reflexes start to slow, like
Yeah,
step by step,
yeah.
and that you get to a point where if you go to an aim duel with a young gun who's 18 years old and you're 30, you will lose it every time if it comes down to reflexes. And then
So-
if you have issues with your wrist, as in when it comes to your aim completely, so that's gonna fuck you up completely. So I'm not expecting Guardian to climb on the top. No, not at all. I'm not expecting him to be one of the best operators in the world anymore. No, I'm not. That ship has sailed long as fucking time ago in a town called Kickapoo.
Yeah,
Okay, so I just want to say something, because you bring this up a lot, and I do this for the sake of argument, kind of, but I don't necessarily agree with how much impact that has. I really don't. I mean, somebody show me a study that is actually well done, and I might believe it. But I really, to this day, I don't believe age is that big of a factor, especially if somebody's 30, 33, whatever. Maybe when you're fucking 60, sure. But I think there's examples of players, as long as they have motivation, as long as they want to keep on playing as much, the reflex argument doesn't hold up to me very well. I think Forrest, of course, there's exceptions. This might be true, and then there's the exceptions, like I think Forrest is, where I know he doesn't have the same drive and passion, but he's still been, in my eyes, a very world-class player, well in his 30s. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually was going to say not an entirely the same thing, but something similar. That I don't believe that the loss of reaction time is the biggest reason why players fall off when they turn 30 or 32 or 28. I think it's more that their body can't handle the grind, or their mind can't handle the grind. So they are playing less, and they are training less, and they are losing the motivation to grind and play as high level as you have to be to play in the best teams. Because if you do if you do the grind from you start grinding for 14 15 years old, and you do it for 15 years, and and for CSGO or League of Legends, if you want to play in the best teams, you have nothing else in your life than the game. And if you're doing it for 15 years, you are going to be more or less burnout, and you have to find something else in your life to balance, so you can keep on playing, or you lose motivation. And
But
those are the
doesn't-
things that I think are affecting more. My experience comes from League of Legends players, and I've been reading so much about this, and the reaction time loss or physical skills lost because of age is not the big factor here. It's more the side of that if you're doing it too long, it's gonna take an effect on you.
Well, to a certain extent, you're probably right. But then again, we're talking about professional sports now. So,
Okay. I will have an argument, but you can.
yeah. No, I'm just trying to kind of think of this in a sense that, we recognize esports as professional sports, as it's comparable to traditional sports too, in a sense, right? So, why is someone able to play traditional sports since they are born until they retire at the age of 40? And then, if with esports, that's saying that if you do something for 10 or 15 years straight, you need something else on the side.
Yeah,
I don't buy it like that, to
yeah.
be exact.
I,
Because
I have answer for this.
please.
Yeah, because in traditional sports, your body gives you some limitations on how much can you train, how much can you use your time to develop your skills. You can't run for 14 hours a day, but what the grind these esports players are doing is so many more hours in the day than like football players or ice hockey players.
100%. It's not even comparable.
Yeah.
I would say, an esports player probably practices on let's say, like, even if we say, like, really low, 5-6 hours. If we said it's 5-6 hours, it's still more than traditional sports.
Yeah.
You know?
It depends. Because remember that, like, if you take any professional sports team, I know something about Jokerit, so Finnish hockey team in Finland. So on a game day, you have morning practice, which is maybe takes 3 hours of your time, and then you have the
Of
game
your
and everything.
time, not
No.
practice. Of your time.
Listen, but
Yeah.
so it's not just about the exercise itself. It's everything combined. So you go to your arena, you do your warm-ups, you do your training. It's a mental state of mind, right? So the grind it's not like strictly comparable because it's very different. The ways of training are very different. But when it's professional sports, even if it's esports or traditional, if esports you train 6 hours a day, when you look at traditional sports, they still do something 5 to 6, 7 hours a day, depending if it's game day or off day. Obviously, everybody needs a day off every now and then, but I don't buy it solely that the grind in esports. Obviously, the grind in esports is very fucking heavy. If you want to be on the top, you need to grind like a madman. No doubts about that. But if you take care of your health, physical and mental, you are able to do it just like in any other sports you can, because all sports are exhausting in a very different way, right? You know,
Okay.
as someone who you have chess is an Olympic sport, and chess games takes forever. It's a mental battle. Similar thing with esports. It's a mental battle. Majority of it's mental. Then it's the fact that are you able to sit still for 10 hours a day during a tournament playing the game, where it comes to mental thing. I understand where you're going for, but I just do not sign it completely in that sense. I really don't, because
look.
yeah.
I don't think anybody of us thinks it's completely black or white, right? But
Yeah.
I also want to add, and this is probably the most important part of what I'm trying to say, is also that we don't have a generation of esports players who could even be 40. You know, the players who were professionals in early 2000s, let's say, I don't know, Heaton or Potty or something, they quit the game in like 2006, 2007 because there was no viable way to make it your living. You know.
Yep.
There was absolutely no way that those players could continue grinding because there was no money in it. The first generation of players who can viably even play, at a higher age, they are the players we have now.
Yep.
I think the oldest players we have are, for an example, right now, let's say Forrest again. He could have already quit before CSGO came out because it didn't look promising that you could make a living out of CSGO at the point. And I really believe that if we fast forward somehow, we go in a time machine 10, 15 weeks a day. This is the first time it's even possible. Like chess players, I don't know anything about them, but I would guess they are pretty old. But chess is an old sport. Esports is not. So there hasn't even been a possibility for older people to be professional esports players,
Right.
Yeah, that's something that's very important. And I have
I
another.
think I'm glad.
No, you're still with us.
Yeah, it's okay. And I have another answer for this also. You're talking about game day, and actually the game days of traditional sports and esports ain't that different. They are doing pretty much the same stuff. But what I'm talking is the games, the days which are not game days. Like if you're doing traditional sports, you maybe do.
You have morning practice and you have evening practice.
You have 2 2 hour practice in a day. But like
But
League of
it takes 6 hours of your time. Totally.
I'm not talking about the hours it's taking of your time. I'm talking about hours you have to focus and you have to train and you have to be 100% in. And like League of Legends players, their normal training day is 3 best of 3 scrims. So it's pretty much 7 to 9 hours, and it's something you have to be fully focused and you have to be fully in. You cannot have anything else in your mind or in your hands. And this is not even consisting the meetings before and after the scrims. So they are like scrimming 7, 8, 9 hours a day plus having 1 2 hour meetings on top of that, and you have to be like focused and fully available mentally for those hours. And it's different if you have 2 hour practice and you travel there and things like that. It's like 2 hour practice you have to be fully in. But in esports, it's like triple that, even 4 times that you have to be like fully focusing on your practice, and it's mentally so much more training than like traditional sports in my eyes.
Okay, fair. There's no way really to argue that, but I think if they are seriously practicing 9 hours a day, they're practicing too much, because they are driving their players to a very unhealthy situation. That's not smart. It makes no sense to do that. Like, I remember, I'm not sure which. To a certain extent, yeah, but if you think of it, it's inhumane to train 9 hours a day every single fucking day. It's inhumane. I do.
I mean,
Even
look,
though it's like,
I understand. I understand your point, and I can agree with it to some extent. But we have people in the world who works 8 hour a day, really, heavy work or really stressful mind work. We don't think that's inhumane. Why is it inhumane to play a game for 8 hours a day?
No, so you didn't allow me to finish my sentence.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So I've been talking with quite a lot of people, and from what I've heard lately, that a lot of those top teams in CSGO, for example, they train 5 to 6 hours a day, because when you go above that,
sure,
you will lose focus eventually. You won't be on your prime, and that means that everything you do after you reach the certain point will be a waste, because you physically and mentally cannot do it properly for that long periods of time every day. You can't compare. Obviously, you can't even compare it to regular work. We work 9 hours a day. We have a 1 hour lunch break, but our job is not 110% focus on the smallest possible details 24/7. It's very, very different. No.
Okay, can I jump in here? Because I agree with you.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I don't think it's smart to practice esports, most of them anyway, for that amount of time. I definitely agree, and I know a lot of players who have practiced 10, 11 hours a day, and they say it only hurts them. So I do agree. I just caught up with the word inhumane because I don't think it's inhumane. So
I totally agree. But this actually goes along with Janne's point that this esports thing is so fresh and so new that coaches and managers and even players, they don't know which is the best way to do things. And then you do what you think is the best thing, and for some teams it is 12 hours of training every day, and it's maybe not the long-term solution, and that is why the players are getting mentally trained or physically trained when they are turning 30 or 28 or 26 even, because the teams are not training properly and not keeping their players properly healthy. and that is the reason that players are going an early, not early grave, but early retirement.
So
Yeah.
one thing though, since we this whole discussion started with reflexes,
Yeah.
and we went on quite a long argument here, but I just have a question for Temu. So
Yeah.
since reflexes was the original topic, I'm just curious. Let's take ice hockey as an example because we're all familiar with it. So ice hockey goalkeepers, they usually peak, would you agree, around 30, 32, or like they can peak earlier, but they can, and goalies can still be very, very good at like 37, 38. Isn't that a very reflex heavy job to be a
Yeah.
goalkeeper in ice hockey? How come?
Yes, but there are also a lot of other things that apply to being
For
a
sure.
hockey goalie. Yeah.
Of course.
So it's when goaltenders speak. When you're really okay, I'm just gonna do like a timeline of a NHL goaltender here. So
Sure.
when you notice a goaltender, or when a goaltender is becoming very good at a young age, it's usually because they're really fast reflexes. They're really fast to react, right? When they get to the time when they're actually peaking, it's not about how they react by their reflexes. It's about positioning. It's about reading the players on the ice. You've been an ice hockey goalie, Janne, so you probably know that when you see how someone is shooting, you're looking at the angle of their hips, the way their skates are on the ice, the way they're moving their stick, because all of that applies and tells you where they're about to shoot. So it's more about anticipating what's happening next rather than just reacting by purely reflexes. So, and that's a massive difference because that
course.
comes with knowledge and experience. So obviously the reflexes of a goaltender who's 33 years old and he's on his prime is not as good as the reflexes of a 21-year-old. But the 33-year-old does better because of the experience. They know how to read the game better. They know how their opponents are. They know what they're about to do. They are better in reading and everything, which means they're better at positioning, which means they're makes them overall better. So they enhance in other aspects in so much that the emphasis on the reaction of the reflexes alone is not as big because the other aspects of the game supports that a lot better than before.
So that's exactly the answer I wanted because that's the obvious answer and it's obviously true. It's also true for esports.
Yep.
So what I want to point out here, because the reflexes, the only thing I want to really prove here, because I understand it's scientifically proven that your reflexes get worse, fine. But I just think that's such a small part of being good at any game at all. It's really, really a small part of your skill or your skill set rather. So I believe, and I truly believe, that if we have a player in the future who plays CSGO, Dota, League of Legends, whatever fucking game he plays, he can be 45 and be the best player in the world. I'm absolutely certain that could be true because reflexes are such a small part of being great.
I agree to a certain extent, but not fully. And that's because,
Okay.
so let's use Counter-Strike as an example. So when it comes to, let's say you have GetRight versus ZywOo, 1-on-1 Dust 2. Neither of them have utility left, so it's a pure aim battle. Right. So we all know that GetRight has a mind of a magician when it comes to clutching situations. He knows how to think. He has the experience to win these situations, right? He can outsmart ZywOo in this kind of situation because of his experience. But if it comes to a point where they meet each other on a Mexican standoff when there's nothing on their way, and it comes to the fact who clicks first, ZywOo wins that battle because he is able to react faster than GetRight. And we're talking about 0.01 second difference or something like that, but ZywOo is faster. Now, GetRight can outsmart, but if it comes to a straight up Mexican one-on-one battle, the one who has faster reaction wins that. And that's why it's not comparable to ice hockey goaltenders, because it's not the same one-on-one matchup. Sidney Crosby can beat Ben Bishop, who's maybe one of the best goaltenders in the world. Sidney Crosby can score 10 times out of 10, or Bishop can save 10 times out of 10. Because they can read each other in a way different way. This is not about reading the opponent. This is about reacting when you see something. Nothing else.
Okay, So I think that is picking out a very specific, area. So this
Of
is where
course.
it comes in. But the fact is that 99 times out of 100, that is not what will exactly determine the outcome anyway. So I still feel like it's just overrated, and I don't think, let's say a player on average who's 25 against a 35-year-old on average, their reaction times are probably very, very similar. It's a really small difference, and I really don't believe that I'm just saying, I don't think it's a main factor that players can't play beyond 30. I think the main factor people don't play beyond 30 is motivational issues, and also that we don't even have a generation who could, you know. So I do agree, but I still think it's a way smaller part of the cake than most people, or most people. I hear a lot of people bring up the argument that you like people literally say you can't be a professional in esports if you're above 30. Like, I think that's complete bullshit.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think it doesn't even apply to 40, I think.
Yep.
Well,
But
to be fair, we need to wait another 15 years so we can
Yeah.
determine that. But
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think so, yeah.
so
we-
we
yeah.
need to have someone kind of to show the way. But how old is Fear at the Fear though?
Yeah, because right now we are getting some results at what is a good way to keep your players safe, keep your players in good form, like in physical and mental health, and like 15 years from now, we see that the players that starting now to play, or what kind of effect it has on them, and like we are now in the point that we have the basic knowledge of how to handle your players.
Yeah. So Fear and Forest are both born 1988. So they're 32 this year.
Yeah, old as fuck.
And I think they might be the oldest ones.
It's the oldest I know of right now who are active, at least.
Yeah,
Well, we have
RPK is
some
31,
older.
but he looks like he's 57.
Well, obviously I think this is more relevant for CSGO or an FPS game than it is for Dota 2, for an example.
Yep,
You know.
definitely.
So in Dota 2, honestly, I believe somebody could be a professional Dota 2 player and be 60. I'm not even kidding. Like, I don't think that would be a problem per se. I don't think we might never see that, of course, but I don't think it's the physical or mental thing that would be the problem.
I'm actually looking at where we find the oldest esports player that has actually been able to get big.
Yeah,
We
there is
have-
pretty old players like in Hearthstone and
We have a StarCraft player, Lim Boxer Yo Hwan, who's 39 years old. Okay, he hasn't played in 10 years. Sorry. No. There are no old men in there at the moment, I think. Some sim racers probably, but yeah,
Okay,
it's
because
going to be
this-
interesting to see. But I think we all have quite valid points, and I think
Yeah.
like none of us is right or wrong per se. This is kind of an argument of the future because we don't fucking know what's going to happen.
Yeah, pretty much. And I actually believe truly, even though I have my opinion, I think the truth actually lies somewhere in between. And, of course, the older you get, of course you lose some, but you gain some. And one last question to just conclude this, because, okay, this is probably going to be true just automatically, but it's kind of funny. Let's say somebody's 60. You think they can do better in traditional sports or esports? Just for fun, Because if they're 60, they don't have a fucking chance against young players physically, but they would have a chance in esports. No, like, at least they could do.
Okay,
better.
well, first of all, to kind of
I
on this
understand it's not the
scenario,
same thing, of course. It's a different thing, and it doesn't, affect the other topic.
you can't ask that question without context around it because you to have some comparison even you need to have that this certain individual would have to be involved in neither or both, and then it comes down to a lot of different things. Like if you're in your 60s Have you had any injuries that affect something, or are we talking about someone who's 60 and very much in very good health? Because then this 60-year-old in very good health can be able to play something,
Well,
even
we are talking
traditional, not professionally probably, but I don't think 60-year-old could play esports professionally even, because at that point
okay,
your
but-
reflexes are really fucking slow.
But esports has games that you don't need your reflexes.
Yeah, but okay, yeah, sure, but I'm talking about a game that does require
Yeah,
some
yeah,
kind
no.
of reflexes.
Yeah, yeah.
And not Hearthstone, you know. And I'm talking
Yeah.
optimal, you know, we're talking up the best 60-year-old, most fit, you know, well-trained, healthy 60-year-old you can find. One has
So,
played
Arnold
professional sports
Schwarzenegger.
forever. Sure, and he has played football forever, or ice hockey forever, and he has played CSGO and Dota forever. I think the esports guy could do well. I don't think, you know, of course there will be motivational issues in reality, but if we look at a, you know, physical standpoint, I think the esports player would do fairly fucking well. You know, there's no limitations, I don't believe. I think there's limitations when it comes to traditional sports, however, that are bigger.
It's very true that esports is more accessible than traditional sports in many ways, because it doesn't matter if you're missing your both legs, you can still play esports. It doesn't matter if you can't talk, you can still play esports. Or esports game. You can't be esports, but you can play the games. So obviously they're more accessible, but I think this argument or the last question is just it doesn't really make sense, because finding a
I
proper
don't.
comparison there is impossible.
Yeah, and
Okay, come back in 30 years when Forrest is retiring at the age of 62 and still popping heads.
yeah, but
I mean,
yeah,
I'll eat a hat full of Berliner monkey in case that happens.
yeah, I want to point out one thing about esports. Like different games requires different skill sets. Of course, there's FPS games. You need the reactions more than you need in Dota 2 or League of Legends. But also the amount of training you have to do is different in different games. I want to bring up example from League of Legends. Like the why these players are playing so much during the season is because the game is updated every 2 weeks. So there is new patch every 2 weeks, and you have 1 week to
What?
yeah.
Is League of Legends patched every 2 weeks?
Yes, every 2 weeks.
That's fucking retarded if you ask me.
Yeah, and like the players have to adapt. They have 1 week to adapt to new patch before it comes to esports. So during that week, they had to prepare for the 2 league games they are having in the weekend, and they are having to get to know the new patch which they are going to play after that week. So every other week they have.
That's absolutely retarded.
Yep, that's because that is why they are playing 9 hours a day, because they are doing like 2 scrim sets to prepare for the weekend and 1 scrim set to prepare the next patch.
Wait. Now I have to
Yeah.
check something. Okay, so when was this released?
What?
I'm checking something. Dota 2 7.24 patch. So this was okay. So 7.24 patch for Dota was 27th of January, and 275 was 2 weeks ago. So Dota has it's usually about 2 months between patches.
Yeah, I linked you to League of Legends
I-
patch schedule.
Well, the thing is this, right? Even if Dota had updates every 2 weeks, it wouldn't really change that much for Dota, because Dota has big tournaments basically every few months is like the biggest ones, so it would definitely not impact Dota as much anyway. League of Legends only gets to that point because they have games consistently that are important, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different either way.
Every team plays approximately 2 games every week.
But I still think that's way too often. That's way too often.
Yeah,
The game,
yeah,
there's
we can
no
agree on that.
time. This is absolutely fucking retarded.
Well,
I
it
didn't
depends
like.
on how big the patches are, which I don't know, but
Yeah.
they are significant every time.
Yeah, it differs, but every patch has like changes to approximately 10 champions and some items.
So it changed, and you would imagine probably that the
Meta changes.
always.
Meta
Yeah, the
changes every
meta
patch.
changes.
So you have to learn new champions, and actually the league is like releasing a new champion or new champion rework pretty much once a month or so. So
Yeah, how many champions you have now in league? Over 150, right?
it's around 150, and they are reworking the original ones now. So it's like 5 to 6 new champions a year, or like I think maybe 5 a year, new champions and 5 reworks a year. So it's like
Okay.
almost once a month you get on like new champion.
Okay, I just have to ask, as you've been following League of Legends for a good 10 years soon. When do we get to a point where too much is not enough? Like, over 150 champions already is a very, very, very vast selection.
Yep.
And pushing more every 2 months just feels like, come on, slow down and maybe
Agreed.
concentrate on something else. Like, you're pushing out the patch every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No one has time. Like, there's no time to create any kind of meta. Like, none whatsoever.
And they are like effectively changing the meta with the patches.
I honestly think that my touch ground with League of Legends is not that vast. So this is solely based on what you just told me. But I honestly think that this patch system might actually hurt the game more than it helps.
Yeah, at least it's hurting the esports.
Yeah, because it makes no sense that.
Yeah.
Okay, like this explains a lot. If a League of Legends player gets burnout, I think there's plenty of them every fucking season. It's entirely on Riot's shoulders.
Yep.
This is absolutely ludicrous. Why?
Yeah, because the League of Legends is like one of the first teams games that teams really are doing things to help their players with mental health and physical health. They are the first ones that hired the personal trainers for the players and things like that, because the players are going through so much training and so much pressure during the season, and that is of course it's a good thing that the teams are doing big steps to ensure their players are feeling healthy, but the game forces the players to like so big pressure that teams have to react for that.
Can I ask a question, Teemu?
Yeah.
Related to this topic. If we take Dota 2, do you okay? Two-part question. Do you think Dota 2 should add more heroes?
Well, we've been getting 2 a year.
Yes or no? In the future, do you want more heroes, new ones?
At the moment, I'm okay with what we have. There's
Because
I think
Okay, so we stop with no more heroes ever in Dota 2.
no, you can't
Okay.
take it doesn't. You know it that you can't ask a question like that.
Okay,
Because
because of course
it's
the
not
answer
so
is yes,
black and
right?
white.
No. But the answer is we want more heroes at some point, correct? But the question is how often or how many like per year, for an example. What do you think? Because I have an answer, but what do you?
I think like 2 a year is a pretty good. You could have 1 in the spring and 1 in the autumn. The patching pace every 2-ish months, I think, is quite reasonable. It usually comes between majors or something like that. So for every big tournament there are changes. So we see different kind of game in the big tournaments, and to me it sounds a lot more reasonable. Obviously, you can't compare it directly per se, because League of Legends professionally is
Sure.
played on a league basis, so you have the seasons which do it. But how long, Mika, remind me, how long is a season? How long is spring season?
9 weeks plus 4 weeks of playoffs. So
Okay,
30 weeks total.
because it would make like even taking 3 weeks between patches would be better, or a month. Something to kind of split it up a bit better, so the game has time and the players have time to kind of figure out what's happening. Because training for, so essentially every second week you were playing your official matches and concentrating on that, and then at the same time trying to figure out what the fuck you should do the next week. And then the next week comes and you are training for the next one again. So you're kind of doubling up on the work and the load on the players, which is absolutely immense.
Yeah, and actually this is something we've talked with Janne before, because Janne wanted to ask me if I have an answer, but why I prefer teams that has more experience over the teams that has new talent, and this is something that has really big effect on that, because the players that has like big experience, years of experience of competitive level, they have a bigger champion pool. So when the meta changes, there is a big probability that the champions that are in new meta is something that they have played professionally before. And when the new player comes, then new players in league are usually one tricks that has reached the top 100 players level, and then they are picked by the teams, and they maybe have done the grind with 1 or 2 or 3 champions, and when professional level the meta changes all the time, so they have to adapt to new champions, and they have to do it quickly. And when the experienced player has already played like 50 games professionally with the champion that comes to new meta, they are more prepared and more ready to play them at the stage. So that is a big factor when you rank the teams, because the experienced players, they already have a big champion pool to react to meta.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's cool. Actually, I just want to give my answer. So I think Dota 2 is doing a pretty good job. I think 1 or 2 heroes a year is more than enough. And I think the best way to do it is either you release 2 heroes every international, or you release 1 and then during like the mid-major or so you release 1 more. I think that's a good pace. I wouldn't want it to be faster, but I also don't want it to be slower. So
Yeah,
just to add my answer in there.
Yep, very good. And league, it's like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 some years, the new champions, and it's actually not that bad, because they are bringing new mechanics, they are bringing new playstyles with the new champions. So I think it's pretty okay, and they are evolving the game. That makes it so they have to rework the old champions, because the new champions are so much more complex, and in a way they are so much more effective in the current playstyles, because they are more complex and they have more depth in them. So they have to rework the old champions, because it's 10-year-old game, and the old mechanics are like they are not as effective in new playstyles, because like the meta is built around the newer champions right now, because they bring so much more depth in the tactical gameplay. So they have to rework the old champions so they can be viable in esports environment. So that's why we are getting so much more reworks right now, because the game has evolved so that the old skill set of the champions are not viable in esports anymore.
So in a way, you could say that they've. I actually see a straight. I see what's going wrong, because they're patching the game too fast. They're adding stuff too fast. They can't. The game itself can't keep up
Yep,
with
pretty
the
much.
updates of Riot.
Yeah, the game is evolving, and the mechanics that were announced 10 years ago are not viable anymore. They are too basic. They are too easy to use. They are too point and click, and they are not doing enough work for them to be viable to game anymore.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
Get to right top fragging made us talk about something completely different for like 40 minutes, by the way.
Yeah.
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 With that said, let's jump back to Flashpoint. I'm just gonna go through quickly the results and the games, and then I think that's enough for today. We can talk about Dota later on. I'm just gonna add that, well, one thing about Dota 2. But so, Gen G lost to MIBR 2-1. Gen G won the first map 16-8. Then MIBR took Vertigo 16-13, and then Train 16-12. About the stats-wise, Bented top fragging for Gen G overall, obviously, but he only had one good map per se. KNGV fallen, pulling their weight for MIBR, and that puts us in a situation where MIBR is through from their group. Gen G and Dignitas are tied at 3 points, and Hopeless is the last in the group. Today we have 2 Flashpoint series at 7 p.m. GMT +1. We have Chaos going against Fun plus Phoenix. The odds are actually quite tight. For Chaos, you can get from 1.8 to 2.07 ish, and then for Fun plus Phoenix, we have from 1.6 to 1.9 ish. It's a quite even game beforehand. Maybe 1-2 sentences from each of you before we go to the last series of the day.
Well, this is simple. I mean, Chaos has steel, so it's gonna be an easy.
Yeah,
I think Janne is lagging again. Couldn't hear it properly. Nico, what do you have to say?
yeah. I don't know how these Fun Plus Phoenix, they're playing like 1 or 2 good games, and now they are rated favorites against Chaos. I don't know how this happened, but yeah, good for them. But I don't think that Fun Plus Phoenix has a chance in this. I think Chaos will take this.
All
I
right.
think it's to be honest. I think it's a fairly close game. Honestly, I don't see. I can't make an argument for any of these teams. I think both are. You know, these teams are not the ones that's gonna go far in
Yeah,
Flashpoint either
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Like Temu likes to call them, these are the bottom feeders, and this
Yeah.
game can end either way.
Yep.
Yeah. Then we have the second series of the day, which is going to be played between Mad Lions and Contact. For Mad Lions, odds perspective, 1.35 to 1.5, and for Contact, from 2.6 to over 3 times the money. And to be fair, it seems somewhat on point. Mad Lions have been pretty good, as we've said multiple times, even after releasing Hunden. They've won their last 4 series so far. 2-1, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0.
One of them is also against Contact, where they smashed them pretty easily. And
Yeah.
I just want to add, from my point of view, if you can find 1.5 on Mad Lions, which I don't think anybody offers anymore, but if you can, that's a great bet. I think the odds should be 1.3 or so. If somebody, for some reason, still has 1.5, well, don't put your house on it, but it's a.
Then the last thing to be mentioned here is actually about our good old friend, the Alliance. A legend returns. So we are indeed talking about Dota 2. And the one and only Gustav S4 Magnussen has joined his old squad to try to bring back the legendary ages to Sweden one more time, which honestly I don't think will happen, but it's good to see S4 back in the Alliance jersey.
Definitely, I think this is super cool. I'm still kind of surprised of Alliance, getting rid of 33 and Fata. I really didn't see it coming. I think the general consensus is that this is a very bad thing for Alliance. And I'm kind of ready to agree. I think Fata did well. I also think 33 did well in the team. And if anything, I think maybe the weakness right now I see in the mid lane is Limp. Even though I like Limp as a player, he's a very good individual, skilled guy. But in the team, I doubt it. He's doing amazingly some games, and then some games he's a non-factor for the team. So Either way, now I started talking about the other players, but seeing S4 back is super, super exciting, especially as a Swede, right? So it's gonna be super fun. I have been kind of criticizing S4 for his performances, especially in Evil Geniuses. I really didn't think he performed on a top tier level, and he was one of the reasons that version of EG didn't succeed as well as they would have hoped to. But I don't know if that has to do mostly with S4's individual ability or how he fit in the team. So it's gonna be super fun to see this. I really, really want it to work out. I already liked this team before, and adding S4, who traditionally or historically is one of my favorite players, makes it even better. I'm still super, super excited to see their fifth player, though. I haven't heard anything yet, but it should be announced probably today or tomorrow. They are already gonna play games on Sunday, so this is gonna be interesting, and it doesn't matter who the fifth guy is. This is definitely one of my favorite teams, and as it stands right now, I think they can do at least as well as the previous iteration. But it's always tough to change out two players. It's hard to know what to expect, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It could
and
be
that,
that Loda or Admiral Bulldog makes their return. Akke is also in the organization.
yeah, and I definitely hope that S4 get to play in front of home audience in TI this year, because that would be great.
That would be really cool, and it's actually pretty cool from the perspective that traditionally Sweden has always had, well, of course Alliance, but other teams as well that were basically full Swedish, and now we haven't had that for a while, at least not a top tier team, right? So now this probably, let's say they take in a fifth who's also Swedish. They will have Nico Baby, who's Bulgarian, but otherwise it will be 4 out of 5 Swedish players. So they will definitely be a crowd favorite if TI10
Yeah.
gets played. Let's see how that turns out. But still, that's pretty cool. And they also already pretty much done or qualified for TI10. So all good there.
Yeah. And with that said, I think it's time to wrap this up.
Yep.
Tomorrow will be our last stream of the week. It's been fun as always. And actually today it's a bit different conversation, but I think it was a really good one still.
I think it's a very interesting topics. Definitely, there's no black or white or not a right or wrong answer, I think, but it's very interesting topics, and we can revisit them at a later point, maybe with some more background work done.
Yeah, we had different topic in mind, but I think this was a better one that we had.
Well, it happened naturally, so
Yep.
thank you, Get Right, and Guardian.
Yeah. With that said, I think it's time to say thank you very much, and we will hopefully see you tomorrow.
Yeah, we will see you tomorrow.
Peace out.
See ya.
Peace out.